Forerunner Navy was the most powerful military force in galactic history, comprised of trillions of ships, sentinels, and space stations. Ironically, the scope and power of the Forerunner military would serve as the basis for their downfall, as uncountable Forerunner vessels and assets were hijacked by the Flood and turned against their creators. Unfortunately, we don't know very much about the ships used by the Forerunners. We see the Sojourner Dreadnought first in Halo Wars 2. Of course, the key ship style Dreadnought plays an important role in the original trilogy, and the massive mantles approach is featured in Halo 4. That brings us to the topic of today's video, the Fortress-Class warship. Although there were larger and more powerful single ships within the Forerunner Navy, including the Mantles approach, fortresses were the most powerful ship type, i.e. mass-produced ships rather than singular vessels. Even by Forerunner standards, they were described as weapons of immense power. We've never seen an official render of the Fortress class, so I asked my friend and fellow content creator E.C. Henry to work with me to model one. Link to his channel, by the way, is down in the description. The vessels appear only in Greg Bear's Forerunner trilogy. Halo Cryptum gives a good physical description of them. The largest single Forerunner ships of war, fortresses, were 50 kilometers in length, with a huge hemisphere on the forward end and a mid-level series of layered platforms equipped with launch bays and gun mounts. Below that, a long, weapon-studded tail. At their widest, they were 10 kilometers across and could carry hundreds of thousands of warriors, as well as automated phalanxes. So the fore of the vessel houses the Forerunner inside the ship and is really its most notable part. Instead of using an umbrella, high charity style head, we instead chose to integrate the hemisphere within the ship's main structure, as that seems closer to how most Forerunner warships are designed. The midsection of the ship was covered with landing platforms and gun emplacements. It's from here that millions of attack and picket ships could be launched and controlled by Forerunners aboard the ship. Finally, we have the tail, which held the majority of the fortress's offensive weapons, while also possessing secondary launch bays. Based on Cryptum, it seems like most of the time, the ship moves with the hemisphere at the fore, though on one occasion at least, a fortress enters battle tail first, likely in order to maximize firepower. The Forerunners seem to have many fortresses, as they abandoned and more or less forgot the deep reverence over the Saint-Chayam homeworld after their war against the species. The fortress was a pre-war design, and by the time of the Flood emergence, the vessels were being built up to twice as long, with far more advanced and destructive weapons. A fully weaponized Fortress class was an incredibly effective battleship, starfighter carrier, and just general transport ship. In Silentium, we see Forerunner fleets made up of dozens of fortresses, and at least 75 of these massive vessels, escorted by hundreds of thousands of smaller ships, attempted and failed to defend the Greater Ark from the Flood. Due to the size of fortresses and the size of the Forerunner Empire, a space-time effect known as reconciliation, which could slow slip space travel, meant that fleets were often broke up, with individual ships traveling alone in order to lessen the strain on galaxy-wide slip space. And that's all we know. The fortresses were massive tools of war, and the most powerful ship line used by the Forerunner. A DeviantArt user known as DarkStorm99 created a size chart which shows just how massive these vessels were. Now, of course, like my design, his Fortress class isn't canon, but I think it gives an interesting perspective. I'll put a link down to the original work in the description. I'd like to give a special thank you to E.C. Henry for helping me put this ship to form. He has an amazing YouTube channel and is definitely one of my favorite sci-fi content creators. He makes a lot of his own models and tackles some really interesting issues, from ship redesigns to deep looks at how the universe would actually work. There's a link to his channel down in the description. Why don't you go check him out and say hello for me. Anyway guys, this has been EckhartsLadder. Until next time, may the Force be with you.